Hello everyone, welcome back to the Reese's Writing YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a mid-month update. I may go back to just doing a weekly update, but we'll see what the videos have in store. Sometimes I'll just miss certain weeks. Sometimes I may not have much to update about. We'll see. What have I been reading? Well, I finished at the beginning of January Mr. Pie by Mervyn Peake. This is a standalone book by Mervyn Peake, bit of a novel about a man who goes to an island off the south of England, and it's a bit of a weird people that live there, and he goes there with the intention to teach people good and to in a sort of religious way to teach people about good and believing in the God. I think he calls him his pal, calls him the pal or something. But I think overall he sort of is a good guy, and there's a lot of playing with the idea of good and evil, good and bad, what those entail, and the contradictory elements of good and bad, God, believing in God. And yes, it's quite a philosophical look. There's a lot of comedy, which I love in it, a lot of good comedy, a lot of British comedy, which I love in Mervyn Peake's type stuff. His character, voice of God, like the narrator type person in both the Gormenghast trilogy and Mr. Pie is really good. I really enjoy it. It's quite an entertaining narrator. So yeah, I really enjoyed Mervyn Peake, and for something that it hasn't really been spoken about, it was a really enjoyable read, and it makes me like Mervyn Peake's stuff even more, even though he hasn't done much more else. I think he's done a bit of poetry. He did paintings. He did drawings, illustrations for Alice in Wonderland and things, but he didn't really do too many novels. I think mainly Gormenghast. There was some short stories in Gormenghast, and that was it really. And then I got on to The Curse of the Mistwraith. I am kind of close. I'm very close. That looks like it's very close, but it's probably 150 pages, 200 pages left. It's a big book. It's about 830 pages, and I really enjoyed Janny Wurtz's. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the world. It's such a rich world and story that Janny Wurtz has created in The Curse of the Mistwraith and the whole Wars of Light and Shadow. The Gallant before gave a really good hint, although that was harder to read through for me. It was very flowery, very poetic prose, and had a lot of words that I had to go back and figure out what the hell was going on. Yeah, that was tougher to read than Curse of the Mistwraith. This sets up the whole premise of the Wars in Light and Shadow. We follow Lycia and Arathon. They're two half-brothers that are like princes, and their toils and problems. And there's Mistwraiths, which are the main sort of villains in the story, at overarching story type thing. And it's a wonderful journey, a wonderful story with these characters. I would say, I think my sort of problem with The Curse of the Mistwraith, the way she writes is so poetic and her prose is so good that I feel like I miss certain emotional moments, certain impactful feelings that come from characters, and are replaced by words and trying to describe things in an amazing way. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like sometimes too many words can, for me anyway, lose certain impacts a sort of situation has, and the characters, they feel less relatable. They feel like they don't have a certain individuality with them. They I don't know, it feels like there is a sort of one voice throughout it all. There are certain standouts, like Dakar, I think his name is the mad prophet. He's quite a good character. He's kind of individual and has these like certain quirks, and is a drunk and like big, and he has his sort of quirks that I enjoy. And maybe it's just the beginning, the first sort of book I feel that in. Maybe as it carries on, Jenny Wirtz really creates these characters into more sort of individual people. But now, as I'm coming to the end, I still feel like some of the characters are sort of one tone to a degree, and they aren't really that individual. And I'm looking forward to going into the next one at some point. It's another massive one, and I've heard that it sort of cuts halfway through part 1s and 2s of Ships of Merior. So I'll go on to that sometime soon. I would like to get onto it pretty quickly, so I don't sort of lose grasp of it. And I've really enjoyed, also, I never used to do this when I was reading, but now I've sort of gotten into Jenny Wirtz's stuff. I've learnt things about me and how I understand stories and words, and that reading out the sort of words for me really helps to fit things into place, fit the idea, the words and sentences into place. I feel like it's not massive, and I think because of the writing style in Curse of the Mistwraith, it's really shown how I can overcome those problems by reading out loud. I was struggling at the beginning to sort of I was going back and forth to figure things out, and it also keeps me in the present. Like, my mind can wander off to a degree, but anyway, I'm enjoying Curse of the Mistwraith, and yes. After that, I'm going on to Philosopher's Stone, which is in a massive pile of books I dared not interfere with, because there'll probably be a crash, bang, and a wallop. So I will go on to the Philosopher's Stone by Colin Wilson, not Harry Potter. I've been watching quite a lot of films as of late, and lots of good ones. I started off with Nosferatu, the new one by Robert Eggers, which I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed Nosferatu. It was pretty dark and grim, and there was lots of sort of romance that was very vampire of them, and very spooky. It wasn't too spooky. It wasn't that like horror-esque. He didn't go too hard on the horror, which I liked. I feel like it was maybe the balance. It was too balanced. Like, it was a fine line between going too over top horror, like jump scares, or like eerie silence and stuff, which can work really well, and but it can lose the story. And the other is having it much more story based. The whole sort of Dracula story can be thing, and I think he went a bit more over to the Dracula, to the story side of Dracula, but without losing the horror. So maybe it comes and goes. It like goes in and out. And I feel like maybe the balance should have sort of stayed more consistent, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. Anyway, there's some really good moments, like when he first goes to the castle when he gets, and there's like a carriage. It's such an amazing scene. It's so cool, like when the sort of gothicness of it, amazing. There's loads of good scenes, but I think the sort of pacing and things felt a bit off. It felt kind of rushed to try and fit in everything, but yeah, I really enjoyed it nonetheless. And then I watched Burn After Reading by the Coen brothers, which is a bit of a spin-off, a bit of a detour from Nosferatu. I love the Coen brothers, and this isn't my favourite, but it's a good comedy about spies and people spying on other spies, and it goes into it's like a snowball. Coen brothers do an amazing job of such a small thing can just snowball out of hand. They've done it so well. They did it well with Fargo. They did it well with my mind's going blank. With Fargo, with The Big Lebowski. They do it really well. This was no sort of exception to that. It sort of leans more to sort of the comedic, slapstickiness of Coen brothers, and it's really fun to watch. It's a lot of fun, and yeah. And then I watched Adaption, which is by Spike Jonze, I think his name is. This guy who did Being John Malkovich, and this is sort of a weird sequel to that. It's more about the writer. I forgot his name. He did Synecdoche, New York, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but I forgot his name. This is about him struggling to write a film adaptation of someone who's researching flowers. And I can see why this is like a big sort of student film. There's a lot of stuff about like, what is film? What is like writing? Like, how pretentious can you get? The problem with adapting books, and like, do you go over dramatize? But the book never really shows drama. It's just a thing about flowers. And it's very meta, but it's the whole thing is a sort of look at meta and writing, and like, yeah, I found it a bit too pretentious, a bit too like over the top meta for me, but nonetheless, it was good. Nick Cage is really funny in it. Well, is really good in it, and he's got two roles as like the two main brothers in it, which I enjoyed. A Real Pain, which is Macaulay Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg, film about them. They're like two cousins, and they go off to Poland to sort of travel to their grandmother's like old house after she dies. Goes to where she's grown up, and they sort of venture through Poland on this tour, this foreign like tour, as they go through certain cities, and they go to like a Holocaust camp, and they see all the brutality and the gas chambers, and it's really dark, but it's a dark comedy, and Macaulay Culkin does a really good job at his character, making him like super sort of, he's like unlikable, but he's like funny, and everyone sort of loves him in a way as like this sort of extroverted type who's really forward in talking to people, but in his background there's a lot of problems and a lot of issues that he's had with life, and it's sort of playing off them and like the problems with opening up, and dealing with certain emotional problems that you've had, and it's all about them reconnecting, the cousins, and exploring Poland and the problems with Jesse Eisenberg's character not being extroverted, sort of being an introvert. And I won't go into too much, but yeah, it was a really good film, and I didn't really want it to end. At the end, I was like, oh, I could have watched it for at least another half hour or something. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I wished it carried on. And then I watched Nickel Boys, which is a film all set in, well, not all, but mainly set in first person view of the main character, Elwood, I think his name is, and his problems as a young black boy in Florida in the 60s. Tallahassee, I think he's from. And you see him growing up. Like at the beginning, I was like, I could feel a certain welling up at the way the beginning was done and the childhood images that are shown. Like, it's not like big widescreen, it's like small details that are sort of remembered in memory. And that's a really powerful thing. And I haven't really seen it too much, and it really did a really good job at like memories and like almost taking those memories and then putting them back into pictures. And it's like, just seeing little stuff and like, why are they in your memory almost, but they're just there and they sort of stay there. Yeah, really powerful beginning. And then he sort of gets older, he goes to school, and then he gets into trouble, and he goes to not trouble, he takes a wrong turn, and he goes to a penitentiary type thing, a young boys penitentiary, and it goes from there. Like, he finds friends. And there's also sort of archival footage that are setting the history. There's like speeches with Martin Luther King. There's a lot to do with moon landings. And I found that a bit weird, but thinking back on it, I found it quite a cool way to sort of show how like people are exploring different planets, different moons, and they can go out to space, but on Earth, there's still so much problems and so many issues with race, and like not actually like just being kind to people just because they're different. And I've felt like those two the archive of moon landings, or like going to the moon and making the first sort of space explorations, are really contradictory, like shoot. It was very good. And then finally I watched Ren Faire, which is a documentary. I loved Some Kind of Heaven, which is another one of his documentaries, which was about a retirement home a retirement place in Florida. And this is about a Renaissance fair in Texas, as they and this is about the manager, and there's like a lot of drama about who should be the owner, because the owner, George, is getting really old. And it's all about the sort of not political, but like, people turning their back, or like people trying to give him money, and it's completely over the top. And so like, it makes me think, like, are Americans even real? Are they real? Are you real Americans? Because I don't know if you are. And every time I watch a Lance Oppenheimer documentary, I'm always a bit like, kind of proves my point that Americans aren't real. So yeah. Besides that, really good drama. It's like 3 episodes, all an hour long, but amazing drama. Like, I can't believe it's real, to be honest. And that's the in terms of entertainment, that it's a bar of like, you should be watching this and like, how the hell is this real? But I think, there's other people that would say this shouldn't be real. Well, this shouldn't be looking fictional. This should be real, and fly in the wall type stuff, like not being too obtruse and just showing the thing as it is. But I digress, and I really enjoyed the documentary. It was on Sky Documentaries if you're in Britain, but I think it's on HBO. To next week, this week, I mean, Wednesday will be the next chapter or two. I don't know how far I'm going to get. It depends on work and things. I'll definitely get the first chapter up for Security Guard. The first chapter is quite long, so I think it's sort of warranted for it to be one episode, but I think they do get shorter, so I can fit in maybe 3 or 2 chapters more into an episode. I do apologize for setting these up in segmented videos. There'll be a Security Guard episode on Wednesday, and then Friday, I will be watching 5 films. I'm going back to that video type thing that I did for the 5 sci-fi gems that I watched last week. So I'll be watching some more sci-fi, but this time a specific year range, and it'll be black and white. So 50s, I think, or 60s. I think it's 60s. I'll be diving into those, and I think I'll put a link in the description to the watch list so you can watch them in this week or whenever you can. But I'll be watching those films this week, and then I'll be doing a video on Friday about them. Okay, that is the video. What did you do this week or 2 weeks? What did you do in the beginning of January? Like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.